Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Grunge Bible Podcast. This is episode 223. My name is Ethan Shalloway. I'm joined by Chris Solona. And you know what? Let the good times roll. Summer's rolling. It's hot as heck everywhere in the country right now, probably in the world, definitely in the U.S. Got a heat wave coming on. And I know that if you're watching on the video, we did it last time. We had our shirts off. Chris definitely has a shirt off because, as you probably know, listening, his AC unit is just too damn loud.
It's too damn loud.
We turn it off.
Yep. Yeah, I'm suffering through it right now. It's a crisp 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and inside it is 91 in my apartment. This is tough, but it's like I don't know. Anytime you get back into a routine, there's a learning curve that you have to do every time, and I've done this for 4 summers. What's one more gonna do in terms of podcasting?
Does the heat in the winter, do you turn that off too?
I do turn the heat off, yeah, because I have a really loud heating duct and it's directly over my head. So I turn. What
happens when you live in the top of the house?
Yeah, it's just my rent's cheap, and I guess there's reasons for that. So I'll take it on the first of the month where I don't pay as much as what maybe some other people are in my area. But also, nobody's asking me to do this podcast. I'm bringing this issue upon myself. Quit the podcast, I can blast the AC all day long. So,
but like you said, it doesn't even really move the needle for you. Like it sounds like it's still hot.
It's gonna be hot either way. So you just got to lean into it a little bit and get some sweat going. But I was listening to a scientist talk about doing hard things and how climate controlled. Like we learn to live in like climate controlled areas like houses and stuff like that. So you're actually you're just hardening your body and just becoming a better person by basically living outside with with the way your AC the unit works and everything. Like you're bracing the elements. So that's good. Chris, how are you? How are you today? I'm all right, man. The heat wave, this is the first one. I hate to be the guy that just keeps talking about the weather. But this is the first heat wave that we have, and every single summer when it hits, I'm grumpy for the first 2 weeks of the warm weather because it's a little uncomfortable to live in my house, and I work from home too, which is tough. But aside from that, things are okay. We are recording this on June 24th, so just over a week or just under a week before this puppy comes out. But things are good. I had a really solid weekend. I had a good little Sunday action, just casually bar hopping and drinking beer with our good buddy Eddie Vedder. Got me through my second divorce. We just bopped around town for a long time on Sunday, did that. It was a normal Monday. And then today is pretty normal too. And I'm looking forward to Friday this week. I get to max out and try to set some PRs in the gym in the snatch and clean and jerk. So hopefully I get something new to report in episode 224 next week. But I'm all right. I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well as also. There's something about the heat, right? That, like you say, it's the first real hot, and you gotta talk about it, right?
Well, that's the thing.
You gotta talk about it. You gotta bitch about it. You gotta be oh, you worked out you worked outside all day. Congrats. You get a lot of pats on the back for doing anything.
Yeah. We've earned this too. I feel like it's been a little while since we've had a bitch session on the podcast. So I feel very okay, and I'm
not bitching.
Well within my right. I am.
I'm not. Yeah, you're bitching. I'm not bitching. I'm just saying it's funny because you gotta talk about it. Everywhere. It's just
everyone's
it really
talking
is
about
hot.
It. It's all the rage.
It's all the rage. It's just it's really hot out. It's it's a hot one.
There's 2 things that'll always come up in conversation with everybody. And if there's a holiday upcoming or that's just passed, and if there's weird weather going on, it's just the baseline of conversation.
Yeah, but last week it was supposed to rain all week. It's going to rain again. Thunderstorm. But now, it's a hot one. And,
it's a scorcher.
But I don't mind it. Like I kind of embrace it. I'm just like everywhere I walk, it's like, whoo, it is hot out here, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it's hot. Like people
solidarity.
Eat it up. People eat it up.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm for it. I like complaining, but then also like you just. Let's be real. It really is hot.
maybe I'll lean into it and just throw out my air conditioners. I don't need them anymore. I'll just do this full time.
Yeah. So we're doing pretty well. Happy to be doing this on Tuesday. I'll be traveling on Thursday, and in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, the high is like 77, and it's like 50 in the morning. Yeah. So like that is just so cool. I mean, it's just I love knowing that there are totally different climates out there, and you can go there and and it's like, it's still snowing in some parts. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man,
it's good shit. So yeah,
Big
man,
time.
I'm pumped up to do that. It's it's going to be really nice track meet. And I love the area. I know some people there, so it'll be good.
Oh yeah, very nice.
So this is episode 223, and we are going to we're bouncing around a few topics, and it's funny because we actually have a request to do a Chris Cornell, his first solo album, Euphoria Morning, but we were like, let's do his last one. we're like, hold the phone. We'll get to that, but let's do Higher Truth first, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. So we're gonna talk about Chris Cornell's final solo album, came out in 2015, and are gonna give our thoughts. And this is one that we lived through. And we have vivid memories of it, so it's way easier. It's a lot easier to talk about something that you kind of live through. As we get older, there are more instances where we can do this with music, and I think that is. I understand when my dad or my coach, everybody's like, I remember when this came out, blah blah blah. This, it was hot. It was this. They have very these vivid memories, and you're just like, Dad, you're weird, or like,
give it a rest.
Yeah, like, all right, we get it. Like, you liked the Van Halen and you waited in line. Like, is that it? Is that really it? But it does bring back memories. So we're going to get to that. But we have a few things to take care of as usual. And we're going to start with our Patreon.
Yes.
So as you know, we are not funded by anything, and no government, no big corporate sponsors, just the people. So
no shadowy money men, no lobbyists, no nothing.
That's right. And we don't ask much. All we do is ask for whatever you can give. Yeah, as long as it fits in one of our three windows, I guess, $2, $5, and $10 tiers. That's a tier. So you can be a $2 member, a $5 member, $10 member, or like we have had a few people go above and beyond, and that is available to you. But please consider while you're listening to pony up, pink pony up and join the club.
100%. Yeah, we're definitely gonna
we need it.
Yeah, we do need it
because the AC costs money to run.
That's the thing. It is not cheap. Yeah, absolutely. But we just if you're willing and able to do that, we would certainly appreciate it, and we hope that you appreciate these 223 consecutive weeks of podcasting. It's always fun to chat about different things, and I'm pretty excited to talk about this one. When we were kind of in the war room earlier deciding, as soon as we threw out the Higher Truth thing, it was just kind of a no-brainer because, like you said, this album kind of came at a perfect time where like we were just getting heavy into grunge and all of the related artists. So this was really the only Chris Cornell related project that we have experiences with as being current, because we weren't really into the genre at the level with which we became when like King Animal came out in 2012. So this will be a good one to talk about. But we would like to thank our top tier supporters on Patreon for giving us this opportunity. We'd like to start way up at the top with Abraham is the cutest basset hound ever. And then we would like to thank the mighty Cracker Man. And then additionally, everybody else at the top tier. And we're going to thank them right now. We'd like to thank the Black Hole Sean. We'd like to thank a bit Dusty, Doug Endy, Eddie Vedder got me through my second divorce, Gochu John, Apona, Heidi in Chains, Jamie Lynn, Jade Mercado, King Buzzle Stole My Hair, Carlene Salona, The Michael Dooley Project, Russell, Nikki Six, Seattle 4 Fanboy from New Jersey, Sherry Matthews, Ultra Mega OK, and What the Fuck is Up, Denny. So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your continued support here in Patreon land for Grunge Bible.
It is very needed.
Oh, yeah.
Very needed.
Necessary.
Very necessary. So, okay, next order of business, we have This Day in Music. And but I also want to say, because it may happen by the next time we talk on air, but the Instagram page is very closely approaching the 1 million mark. And the rumor has it that's when it gets deleted. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, rumor has it is that's when the final post will go up, and then you'll never hear from us again.
When the higher truth post comes.
Yeah, exactly. So based off of my forecast, we're recording this on June 24th. I'm expecting that we're probably going to hit 1 million somewhere in the vicinity of July 4th. That's my forecast if all things go. Yeah, it's coming soon.
Don Steele's gonna come
out. Bang, bang, bang. So that'll be good, and that'll officially be like the last stimulating goal that we'll achieve with the page. Because 2 mil, it doesn't matter after that. Like having that 1 mil is pretty cool. That's the equivalent to the population in my entire state that I live in. Rhode Island's got just about 1 million people, so.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool to hit.
You have all of Rhode Island supporting.
Yeah, exactly.
So Chris, if you had to, and this is one. Okay, so not planned, but you had a post that all of a sudden became the last post. Like for whatever reason, it ended. Like just stop posting. What would make you really happy? Like I'm really happy that like this was the last post type of thing. Like,
oh man,
band song is anything that comes to mind. Like, would you want it to be a meme?
I feel like a lot of people would think that I would say would, but I wouldn't want it to be would.
That's true. That's
true. in a perfect world, Ethan, in my opinion, the last post would be a not grunge post that really has nothing to do with the page at all. That was just like I was listening to. I was like, yeah, like I need to share this with somebody, like some like random ass band from like the 70s or something that I'd just throw up there, and then that would be it, and there would be no fanfare, no nothing, no notable post, just something that I felt wanted to go up there, and then that'd be it. Then you'd never hear from us again. Do you have an ideal final post?
Yeah, you go with like R.L. Burnside or
yeah,
something.
Exactly. I just posted him last night.
Yeah, when you say that, I think that's pretty good. I don't know, maybe like just like the classic like Semisonic like closing time. Some probably some a late night post would be like really cool, because that was kind of really exciting to post like all those like the late night band performances over the years. But I like the randomness is definitely very fitting.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like something in the night or whatever.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Like
I'll tell you the one thing
Bruce
that I
probably would be that.
Yeah. The one thing that I actively ruminated on the page was I posted recently. I posted "That's Life" by Frank Sinatra, and
I was just
yeah, exactly.
I did it my way.
Yeah, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny? And I put this in the caption. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if like this was the last post and then you never heard from us again? And everyone was like, yep. Yeah, that would be kind of funny, but please don't do that. But I don't know. Perhaps
it could. I was gonna say that the nice part is like that's just a little foreshadowing, and you never know when it'll be. But that's a perfect one too, because I was gonna say I did it my way. That's like as soon as I originally said my first answer, then I was like, oh, Frank Sinatra would be cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, pretty. We're gonna have to do like a live podcast.
Yeah, we might. Yeah, exactly. Like this is it. We're coming to you live when we hit 1 million.
Why did we do it? Oh, we did it for an anniversary for the podcast.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, we did the 4-year anniversary. We went live for 4
So that's
hours.
pretty cool. So keep an eye out for that. I think it's definitely neat. All those milestones always like they happen faster than you kind of expect. I don't know. Is this about as long as you thought it would take to hit 1 million?
Life comes at you fast. I honestly don't really know. I mean, the page, like the first like several years of the page, like we gained like I think the first year we gained like 15,000, and then it got to a cadence for like a couple of years there where it was just about like 90,000 new followers a year. But then the last couple of years, like I think it's been like 250, 300,000 every single year. So I don't know. I guess it happens quicker. Happened quicker than I thought. But then again, the page is almost 10 years old.
Bicycle. Time to ride a bicycle.
Exactly. Yeah, man. 100%. So what do you say we get into some This Day in Music action? Yeah, let's move on here.
Let's move on.
May I lead this one off? I like this one here.
Absolutely.
Oh, actually, never mind. I thought I put them out of order, but we are going to start in 1984. This one hits close to home for me. On this day in 1984, Bruce Springsteen's song Dancing in the Dark from the Born in the USA album reaches its peak on the Billboard Hot 100, reaching all the way up to number 2, where it would spend 4 weeks in that position. And something that I've known for a while but still boggles my mind when I think about it is that Springsteen has never had a number 1 hit as a Bruce Springsteen or Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band song. He did write a song that ended up at number 1. Manfred Mann's Earth Band covered his song Blinded by the Light, and that made it all the way up to number 1 in 1977, which really pisses me off because I think it's a far inferior version to Bruce's original.
I love that song.
Dude, I fucking hate that song, that version of it. Like, Bruce's is so much better, and I just
that was a classic. I knew that song before I knew it was a cover, and
oh yeah, I was probably the only person on earth who didn't know that, and like I knew Bruce's, and then I heard that other one. I was like, what the hell? Like, this is disgusting, and it really upset me to know how popular it was.
That's actually crazy too, because it's not like you were around. Manfred Mann, they probably covered that in, I don't even know, the 80s, right?
They covered it in 77, and that's when it hit the top of the charts. And I think
so it's not like
Bruce's original came out in like 72 or 73, I think.
Damn, 50, holy cow.
Yeah, long time, man. But what are you gonna do?
That's really interesting. Yeah, no number 1 hits. That is,
yeah.
It just shows you how hard it is to be number 1, and Elvis did it all the time. He was a hit machine, dude. All he could do is hit dingers, and wow. Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, moving on. 1992, the Singles movie soundtrack is released, and it ends up going 2 times platinum. We did an episode on Singles back, and it was actually the first time Chris and I both watched it.
Yeah.
And we synced up and we watched it, and we gained an appreciation for it. And I still, love the fact that, the songs were released on the soundtrack. There are a few unreleased songs, I guess, or not on albums. They were written specifically for the movie. And we love when like the OC or Singles, like when the soundtrack is way more than just like filler songs. And these songs, there's a lot of rippers on there, and people love the soundtrack probably more than the movie.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. So the soundtrack came out June 30th, and the movie wasn't released until September 18th of 92. So you had a summer with the soundtrack before the movie was released. But I have to imagine that was a very intentional decision to kind of capitalize on the popularity of the artists and the songs that were on that soundtrack, and just try to keep the hype train rolling, long enough until September when that abomination of a movie came out.
Yeah. And it was good. It was good.
I got to rewatch that one. I think we did that episode like 2 years ago at this point. So,
for its purpose, it was good.
Oh yeah.
But as like a film in general, probably not that good.
Yeah, absolutely. Next thing up, also on this day in 1992, Kyuss released their second studio album, which was called Blues for the Red Sun. That came out. That was, I think that was the Kyuss's final album with Nick Oliveri, the bassist. And then he ended up joining Queens of the Stone Age for a little turn in the late 90s and early 2000s. And yeah, he was a legend, and Kyuss was sick. And, as we say about a lot of artists, it is cool to think that Josh Homme was doing that type of stuff when he was that young.
How old was he?
He was 19 in 1992.
Damn.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Awesome to be a part of that.
Oh, yeah.
Not a big Kyuss guy myself.
No. Yeah, I definitely, Welcome to Sky Valley. I mean, that's just one, that's like a pre-lift album you throw on when you're driving to the gym.
All right. Let's go. So in 2000, June 30th in 2000, a crowd crushed during Pearl Jam. A crowd was crushed?
Yeah, there was like a crowd crush event. Like there was a rush towards the front of the stage, and this was the famous tragedy at Pearl Jam set at Roskilde in 2000, where 9 people passed away. The band actually, after this happened, obviously there was a lot of investigation into it, and they ended up decreeing that nobody was particularly at fault for this, and it was just like a horrible accident that happened. And Eddie and the guys in the band actually very heavily contemplated like quitting music after this, and dealt with a lot of guilt for the fact that this happened during their set. But they ended up, obviously, as we know, continuing, and they ended up commemorating the 9 people that were lost in the song "Love Boat Captain," which was released a couple of years later in '02. With that, the lyric in the middle of the song where Eddie sings, "Lost 9 friends we'll never know 2 years ago today." And it's interesting, whenever they're on the road in the vicinity of this anniversary, they typically will play "Love Boat Captain," and they'll change the lyric for however many years it's been. So like if they were playing a show now, it would be 25 years ago today, which obviously a really long time ago. And I just think about all the shows that I go to, and like as a fan, you go to a show, yeah, and like as a fan, like you go to a show and like that's the highlight of your week. Like there's only good things that are supposed to happen, and it's always awful to think that you can go in with such a positive mindset and feel so good about it, and tragedy can strike. It's really sad.
I didn't know. I mean, crowd crush. I didn't know that was a term.
Yeah, I mean, there's like different ways to refer to it, but that's literally what it was. Like everybody just kind of.
Yeah. No. Have you ever been a part of a crowd? I mean, the Wonder Years, we kind of were when they were playing in
that
Philly, and it
felt
was
very
really tight.
Uncomfortable. Yeah, thankfully that's like the worst experience that I've had. But it can get freaky really quickly too, because it's impossible to diffuse something like that quickly.
Yeah, in like 2014 or something, or maybe it's 2012, they had the free shows at the Piazza and Schmidt in Philly.
Yeah,
and it was cool. It was great. And then word got out that there were free concerts, and like good people were playing, and like Panic at the Disco played, and like it got like really packed. And as soon as they started playing, like there was serious, like we were already packed, and somehow we were moving 20 feet forward. Like that, it's not possible. And then we were moving 20, and like people were literally like, they put their hands up, their legs up, and they were like stuck and in midair between people, and it was like, and people would fall down and everybody would fall, and like it's one of those like a helpless moment. Like you can't, like no matter how big strong you are, there's like hundreds of people
you
pushing.
You lose all agency over where you can go and what you can do, and you're totally at the whim of the crowd. And like there's like the compressive element, and there's the heat element of it too. Like if you're especially like at that Wonder Year show, for example, exactly 100%. And like when like
we were just talking about how hot it is,
man. And like if you're not tall too, like obviously like you're at risk of like falling, maybe a little bit higher risk of that, but then like it's so much hotter. If you're short, like if you're down in one of those things, it's really scary to think about. Because like once something like that starts, as we said, it's like, you can't get, 3,000 people just to like take 5 steps back together. Like it's just not a good situation.
And the problem is once it goes extreme one way, it goes extreme the other. There's like, it takes a while to balance out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot of crazy crowd experiences and overpacked shows. It just is
well, I think
deadly.
Netflix just released an investigative documentary about the Astroworld incident that happened probably 5 or 6 years ago at this point. I haven't watched it yet, but
I think it was after COVID. I think it was 21.
Yeah, I can't remember when it happened. But that was Travis Scott, right? A Travis Scott show.
And that one was like people were busting in, like it was overpacked because people like got in, but something like that happens, like it's really hard. No one's gonna want to cancel a show, but it's like, if there are telltale signs, and I guess maybe nothing's happened to that extreme, but like I would think that, if you don't have the show, people have to leave type of thing. So
yeah, scary stuff.
All right. Moving to June 30th, 2015, Apple Music is launched.
Superior audio quality.
As we've talked about on the show, we hate to really give them props, but this is the best, what's the word? Lossless music experience that you can have is listening through Apple, and they do a good job. I'll give them that. I don't know how I feel about Apple. They got us into chokehold, but like, I guess their products are good, and Apple Music is not an exception. It's solid. Yeah. I just don't use it.
Yeah, it's great. I just
like my trash can Spotify a little bit better. It knows me.
Yeah, seriously.
It knows me.
Oh man,
they're cool over there at Spotify. Well, that's debatable too.
they seem objectively not cool with how little they pay artists, but
platform's cool.
Yeah, I can't go on a diatribe because I use it, and it's incredibly hypocritical of me to have an issue with it. But yeah. I can't really do anything about it, unfortunately. They're not going to listen to the Grunge Bible podcast.
If they mess up
what we have to say.
Yeah, maybe they might scan this and actually mute this.
Yeah, we might get sanctioned here.
If the Spotify Wrapped is shit again, I'm out.
Yeah, it's like they mailed it in last year, so they
mailed it in big time.
You get one, and they've had their one, so we'll see. Yeah, we might have to take some drastic action on this.
They thought they could get away by just adding a few adjectives before a genre of music.
Yeah.
Light poppy, IPA, just disco ball.
Complete
downtown.
Mail-in job. No respect for that. Anyways, we've got one more event on the calendar for this day in music. And on this day in 2019, Taylor Swift's former label, Big Machine Records, was sold to Scooter Braun's company for $300 million. And with that sale went Taylor Swift's entire back catalog, including the master recordings for all of her albums and releases to that point. Whether you're a Taylor Swift fan or not, I'm sure you'd heard about that and the subsequent re-recording and reissuing of Taylor's version of many different things. And that persisted for a long time. I think long enough for Taylor to like re-record her entire catalog. But I think just like a month ago or something, she regained ownership of all of her catalog and the masters of her original recordings. So I guess all's well that ends well, and I'm sure that Taylor's versions made her millions and millions and millions of dollars. So perhaps there's a conspiracy theory about this.
That's so funny. I never thought about it like that. Did she have to buy back the original or whatever?
I honestly don't know. I didn't look into it when it happened. I kind of I
mean, she sold her originals for $300 million.
Well, she didn't sell it specifically. The record label had it, and then the record label was purchased, so she didn't profit off of that original sale. But I don't know. I kind of have
was the record label that sold it making all the money instead of Taylor before?
I hope they make a doc. I mean, this is like a bittersweet symphony thing where like there's so many different rights holders for different things that like she didn't have everything that she needed to like have full ownership. I don't know. I didn't really.
Then you get big enough and you can just do it all yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously what she did.
And people got behind it. I mean, this is big news. I remember like it really was like circulating and like a big deal.
Oh yeah. This one it got kind of ugly, I think.
Yeah, I'll investigate. Maybe there probably is like a little, some YouTube doc that will do a better job of explaining it than us. But this happened in 2019. So.
Yeah, there's going to be something about it.
All right, that wraps up this day of music, except for one thing, but it is a perfect bridge to the episode that we're going to be talking about. So, yeah, I guess I'll lead with that. Well,
yeah, let's wish this man a happy birthday.
In June 30th, 1916.
1816, Father Time.
He's 109 years old. In 1960, Brendan O'Brien was born.
The king.
You may ask, who is he? Actually, a lot of people probably know, but really, really well, not documented. What's the word I'm looking for?
A well documented,
well endowed producer.
What type of experiences have you had with Brendan O'Brien, Ethan?
He's a big producer.
Prodigious producer. He's very prolific and remarkable.
Prolific.
Yeah, those are the adjectives. Not well endowed, although perhaps, I don't know.
Does endowed have one meaning?
I mean, I think typically when endowed is preceded by the word well, I think that's got one meaning. Like nobody's like, wow, like you see that guy in the gym, like he has a very well endowed bench press. Like no, like you see that guy in the gym, like he's pretty well endowed. Like that only means one thing.
Oh, that's so funny.
What a disaster. But yeah, nevertheless, Brendan O'Brien was born on this day in 1960, which means he turned 65 years old today. And I'm sure you all know who he is, but if you don't, he has been the producer for so many of your favorite albums, damn near everything in Pearl Jam's discography, save for 10, Gigaton and Dark Matter. He was the principal producer for all of the other Pearl Jam albums. He's also worked with bands such as the Black Crowes, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Temple of the Dog, STP, Aerosmith, Soundgarden. This album that we're talking about today, Higher Truth by Chris Cornell, he's worked with Neil Young, Rage Against the Machine, Limp Bizkit, even Lifehouse in the early 2000s, which was big business, as we all know. Some Springsteen in there, Incubus, you name it. Brendan O'Brien has had his fingerprints on it. And, kind of like behind the scenes, a lot of your favorite music would not sound the way that it does sound were it not for this man. So happy birthday, Brendan O'Brien.
Also Paul Westerberg. But not on Dyslexic Heart, which
exactly.
is the only song that you need.
That's it.
And the important part about him is he was actually the producer and kind of the sole confidant for Chris Cornell in making Higher Truth, the album that came out in 2015 that we're going to talk about. So as far as writing credits and all this stuff, like he played various different instruments.
A litany of different instruments on here.
And look like, I would hardly call it a collaboration, but like Chris leaned on him for a lot because it's his producer, and it seems like the good producers have really good rapport with and they're trusted, and they make real changes to the music. You just don't hear about it. You just don't understand that. I mean, that's how our producer is.
Absolutely.
We would be nothing without his producing, and he makes great edits, very great suggestions. But Brendan played a really big role in this album, and it's a solo album, and then you just like I have to trust one person, and he chose Brendan.
Well, I mean, that's what happens.
Awesome.
I mean, they're kind of on the bridge of the ship at all times, and I always think back to that interview that we did with Tim Sonnefeld, and just like his perspective towards being a producer, and like the responsibility that you have and the rapport you have to build. So it's not surprising when that there's so many bands that have long-standing relationships where it's like, this is like our producer, like this is the person that we're going to work with for a long time, because it's like, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be able to be honest and, receive feedback. And as a producer, you have to feel empowered to give feedback because, it's kind of your wheel. So it's really, we all benefit from it when those relationships are good. And when those collaborations go off, relatively seamlessly. And Brendan O'Brien, as we said, has been involved in so many things, including this Chris Cornell album, which was the last collection of music that he released during his lifetime. This album came out way back in 2015 on September the 18th. And it was his fourth studio album. And as we said at the top of the show, Ethan, this was really... honestly, as we got into like the grunge thing like that, because we got into this in like 2014, 2015, like this was really one of the first new releases that we had experienced as active fans of, in this case, Chris Cornell. So we have some personal experiences with this album, as I'm sure a lot of people out there do. And, it obviously, words cannot describe how much it stinks that this was the last album that Chris Cornell released while he was alive. But what a great album, man. Like, I remember listening to this when it came out, and, my enjoyment of it has not diminished in the 10 years that it's been out. And, it's peppered throughout different playlists of mine. And I always kind of think of it because that was such an important time period for both of us, really, when it came to getting into, these artists, and it had a big impact on me.
Yeah, thinking back to specifically 2015, and this came out in September 18th.
September 18th, yeah.
Yeah, and the single "Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart" came out, I believe, August 30th or 10th. Yeah, sorry, August 10th. And so it's the end of the summer, and later, right at the end of the year, is when Scott passed away. Yeah. And this was right when we had just transferred, and I was making my way to Kentucky. I took a gap year, and Chris just released some music, and I feel like we were getting into the music, and I don't want to say like grunge is alive, right? It was alive at this time.
Certainly,
but
yeah.
There was stuff coming out, and like there was news going on, and I think it really sparked our interest. And like I said, this album came out, and I was around my boss, and this, Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart was on the radio all over the place. I mean, it really was a big deal that Chris Cornell had an album coming out. I mean, he is everyone knows this. He's one of the most special artists and musicians that we have had. And so it was a big deal, and it played all over the place, and it was hard to miss it. So we listened to it a lot, and then the album came out, and same thing. You just like, wow, I have 15 songs or whatever it is to listen to Chris, and it was it was a specific time of life. Like I was in a transition period, and I was 20 years old when this came out. It's crazy because I'm 30. It was 10 years ago, and I was 20, and you were 18.
That's the thing that's been messing with me, man. Like we're approaching stuff that like and obviously a lot of people that listen to this podcast were around in the early 90s and consume that stuff. So like I'm just starting to understand the way that they feel about that music, where it's like, wow, like I very vividly remember this coming out, and like it was 10 years ago. Like that's like 10 years, like a decade is a fairly long amount of time, for you're lucky to live, to your 80s or 90s. Like you only get 8 or 9 decades, if you're lucky. So it's a significant chunk of time. And this album kind of came at an interesting time in Chris Cornell's life and his life as a musician too. So it was his first solo album since I don't want to be rude here, but the tough release from 2009 called Scream, which was a collaboration with Timbaland, and it was kind of like a I don't know. It was like kind of like little hip-hop.
We won't be doing an episode.
We will not be doing an episode on Chris Cornell's album Scream. So this was kind of like a return to form. I mean, Euphoria Morning came out in 1999 after Soundgarden broke up originally, and then it wasn't until 2007 that we got the next solo album from Chris Cornell, which was Carry On. And then, as we said, quickly followed by Scream in 2009. But between 2009 and 2015, Soundgarden got back together. They had released King Animal. They were touring pretty prolifically, in 2010, 2012, 2014, and so on. And around this time this album was coming out, there were also rumblings that Temple of the Dog was going to do what they ultimately did for their 25th anniversary, doing that small tour in 2016. So really, a unique period of his life as an artist, and just like in his life and all of those things that were going around him musically. And, this was really just a perfect return to form. And I think a lot of what people had appreciated, we talked about the Singles movie before, having written those songs for that, and, thinking about that and some of his softer stuff that he had done for Soundgarden, and certainly Euphoria Morning. Like this is kind of a return of, in Chris's solo career, of like what made him great and why people loved his solo stuff.
Yeah, the Temple of the Dog tour, I almost that almost slipped my mind. And we talked about trying to go to that. Like, it's no wonder that we got into grunge at this time. Like there was kind of a lot going on.
There was a lot going on at that time.
Yeah. Like I said, we lost Scott, so there's a lot of reasons to listen to Stone Temple Pilots. New Chris Cornell, all of a sudden, Stone Temple Pilot. I mean, Temple of the Dog is getting back together. Like all these memories that of the older generations start talking to you. You start hearing them. It's so funny because if you talk to like a 18-year-old or a 20-year-old right now, and they say have like takes on music or whatnot, I'm sure just the same way we were goffed at. But then you think like 10 years, like when we were going through this, say, renaissance in music, like, oh wait, no, they can have you guys, the young bucks do, like when they message us and say like, oh, I'm 18 just getting into grunge, like all their opinions and understanding of music are just so real and raw, and I love it. And I want to say, like, when an artist, a part of a big band, such as Soundgarden, such as Pearl Jam, when the lead singer breaks off and decides to because they had, like you said, King Animal came out in 2012. This is 3 years later. Like, it's almost when artists do that. It's like, oh wait, they had a lot of songs that they want to take a break. They need to step away, and like they're focusing. Like this has a purpose, and I'm not saying that the other albums don't, but it's like, okay, you guys need to release this. Like we need another album. But like when they go solo and they release something, there's usually a lot like, oh, these songs I've been thinking about for 10 years. Like, I need to get this off my chest. I've been thinking about this concept for 15 years and like it's time, like at the point of my life, whatever it is. And I think that's what Chris got to. Like, this is a very introspective, very like personal, like meaning of life type of album. And what he did with it, in my opinion, is he kept it simple, bare bones, as far as like it's really good picking, really good acoustic guitar, but like it's not Chris from Soundgarden, right? It's not
Right.
this like, it is, obviously it is, but like it's just such a beautiful acoustic vocal performance with like, dare I say, basic like instrumentation, but it's like really beautiful, like the way they ebb and flow. But like, it's something that like if I were to go to a wedding and they were like, we didn't know what to put, so we just put on Higher Truth, and Higher Truth played the background of the wedding, it would be freaking perfect. Like it's like a perfect wedding. It's like if you're hanging out, have campfire, and you put on this album, no one's complaining. No one's gonna maybe get out of their seat. But I was thinking like, if I were to like put on like the perfect background music, over a conversation where like, it's not gonna. I don't want to say it's not gonna distract, because there's definitely there's parts and like you're gonna be talking about it, but like I don't know, there's something about it that is so like, it's so, I don't want to say calm, but like warming. There's obviously a very warming feel to this, and it just, I don't know, man. It's just like, it's just simple beauty to it that I love, that I really like have grown on me. And like, I don't know, it's like, it's not going to blow your mind as far as like what you're maybe used to or what you're expecting, but it's just like, oh yeah, this is professional stuff.
Yeah. I feel the same way about it. A couple things that I'm thinking about too, like with how dynamic of an artist Chris Cornell by this point had been for, almost 30 years or whatever it had been, back since to the 80s. This album is not daring in that way.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be. And I think when people receive something like this that's maybe not as daring, and I definitely agree, like obviously it's a little bit more calm. I think like musically, like it's a warm album. I think the production's really good. Like it serves a purpose.
Right?
It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing at all. But that's what it is.
Yeah, people kind of lose that certain points in terms of how they receive this. And this album did not get fantastic reviews when it was released, and I think people inevitably kind of held it against Chris that because he had been so daring and dynamic vocally, or ambitious with some of his other sounds, that like he had to be that every single time. And I think the other thing that comes into consciousness sometimes when an artist, that's a front person for a band releases a solo album is, people, whether they're intentional or not about it, if that band is still active and you get a solo album from the singer, people kind of feel that like, oh, like this album came at expense of another Soundgarden album because like Chris was busy doing this. And like, I don't think that's
better than any Soundgarden album we were going to get in 2015.
I mean,
probably.
Who's to say? I mean, if we ever hear those recordings, if the legal battles are ever done, we will kind of hear what they were working on in like 2016 and 2017 or even 2015. But, I think where some people kind of, knock this one and ding it a few points because it's not dynamic and because it's not soaring or anything like that, like, I see a lot of positives to that. It's something, it's accessible, and he's sticking to a formula here, and just because it's not the most innovative thing you've ever heard doesn't mean that it can't be beautiful, and doesn't mean that you can't connect with the songs. Like, I mean, as you said, the only single for the album was Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart. Like, I remember that one, and weirdly enough, which is not something that I was experienced with having, like, I was getting into grunge same time you were, and like I remember Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart had some crossover appeal with friends of mine that weren't grunge listeners or weren't Chris Cornell fans. Like I would hear them talk about it, or if I was listening to it, they're like, oh yeah, like I know that one. So it kind of it fits in a really good spot where I think it has a lot of appeal to a lot of different people. And even though it's not Chris singing like Beyond the Wheel or something, or making a song like Seasons, I don't think it has to be.
And there's a reason that was their single. Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart is like a little bit more. I mean, it's bigger than I think most of the other songs, and it goes a little bit, and it goes a little bit more outside of what we got the rest of the album in a great way. And I think it was, older, I don't know, older Chris type of sound a little bit, but yeah, the album, like, this would be, it's funny because, yeah, if another artist were to come up with this and pretty much do the exact same, now I wouldn't have Chris's voice, but it would be their magnum opus. And a lot of times people, it would be like, they'd be so happy to have produced something like this. So yeah, it's maybe a little bit harsh on how people, viewed it when it came out, but it's just what happens when you produce greatness. You're always going to be criticized. And then once it ages a little bit, now, you look at it now and I'm like, I'm like seriously consider buying this vinyl.
Yeah.
Because I can't even imagine a better, like, Saturday morning, throw it on. And, like, it's something that is, that will play and will add its effect to the room. And I don't need to devote all of my energy to, like, either, dissect it or it's very digestible. Like you said, it's very accessible. And I think that's really important at times in music. Like, it can be simple and great at the same time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart. I think, I've used the word dynamic a few times. Like, I think that is the most dynamic track from this album. But, some other songs that are standouts for me, like, I love Dead Wishes. Worried Moon is great. Before We Disappear. Josephine, Murder of Blue Skies, and I really love Let Your Eyes Wander as well. And from a lyrical standpoint, like, you can tell this is from somebody who's a little older than you might remember him at the time, and he's had more life experiences. And this solo album, it gave Chris an opportunity maybe perhaps to write about things that he may not write about on a Soundgarden album or even on an Audioslave album from the 2000s. So it's just kind of a different opportunity to explore a different part of his brain and a different part of his art. I'm always, anytime an artist wants to show us that other side of the neighborhood or that different side of the coin, like I'm all for it. And I remember when this thing came out, man, like, listen to some of these songs. Like, I loved Worried Moon. Like, we used to send that one back and forth to each other all the time, and sharing it with our friends and stuff. And I know whenever invariably throughout college, ourselves or our friends that were kind of into the grunge thing, like, when you see a girl or something and it doesn't work out, or like they do you wrong, like, pretty soon you're throwing Murder of Blue Skies around back and forth to your buddies when they ask about how that thing is going with that girl. But this is kind of one of the first releases from the grunge adjacent world that, like, came out and I had experiences with it while it was new. And you kind of go back to it, you were talking, hearing some of these songs on the radio when you were working with Andy. Perfect guy to, have some new Chris Cornell stuff out on the radio, while you're working with him. We had him on the podcast way back in the day talking about Jerry Cantrell, but he was he helped guide us into this musical world quite a bit back then. And even, I just remember, I transferred to Iowa State, as you said, and you were at home because you went to Finland that fall for the first semester. And I was starting my, the next part of my life at a new school. And, I remember walking around campus, with my headphones and, listening to this album and, discovering which songs were my favorite and everything like that. And, not even really connecting with the lyrics for what they say explicitly, but just the album as a whole kind of is really, reminiscent for me of, like, that new chapter in my life that I started. And it's funny because, like, when you transferred like we did, like, Pitt seems like it was a long time ago because, like, there was something after it. But now, like, the thing that came after it is also very long ago. Like,
Almost 10 years.
Yeah, you decided on Kentucky and I decided on Iowa State. Probably damn near 10 years ago this month. Like, probably, I would say around then. So, there's a lot of emotions that I have thinking about this album, as it relates to me personally, and also as it relates to Chris too. The thought that I had after he passed away, looking at what he had done with this album and some of the stuff that he had done afterwards when it came to, touring his solo stuff, was he was so well suited to settling into what the next part of his career was going to be. Like, I imagined Soundgarden was going to continue and they were going to continue to write, but kind of in a similar cadence to Pearl Jam. It would have happened with less and less frequency, and maybe the subject matter or the way that they presented songs would have changed. Perhaps there would have been an Audioslave reunion. I know that they were kind of mulling it over in early 2017, but this avenue right here that he inhabited on Higher Truth, really for the first time, like, I was so excited for him to kind of settle into that and, make a few albums that were in this vein, and go out and tour them. I mean, what could be better with, him and his guitar, or, with maybe accompaniment by one other musician or something. And it's just kind of that opportunity to give those dynamic songs so much room to breathe on stage and present them in a different way. And I can't tell you how many hours I've spent on YouTube watching him perform his solo stuff, or even stuff from Audioslave or Temple or Soundgarden, with just him and his guitar. And, kind of like a lot of artists, you think of him and you think of the voice, but something like this really recalibrates it. It makes you think of the whole musician, the songwriter and the guitarist and the performer, because he certainly showcased his talents with this one and the subsequent tours of it.
Well, and also, when I listen to, it's like, when you hear Chris, okay, so we probably watched a lot, like you said, a lot of his solo stuff, and you've seen him perform a few of these songs, but some of the stuff that was coming out at that time, every performance is so genuine. When he has a guitar, when it's just him and a guitar, it is the most genuine shit that you're going to get from these, like, that era, right? I mean, I guess, everybody has their version of this, but something in his voice, right? But then you also, like, all the interviews that he had during this time, like, when he would talk, like, I mean, he would get deep. He would get really deep with some people, and would tell people and, like, talk about, like, what's life after death? What does it look like? And I think that had a lot of influence on this album. And you could see, like, he was entering this part of his life where he was, I never met the guy. I don't know. This is all just from listening and watching from afar. But, like, he was severely affected by his life before, and he had questions about what was after, and he took to the guitar, and he took to writing lyrics, and when I hear this, I'm like, I think that we would have got a lot more. There would have been more solo and more Chris, and just asking us to join him on understanding of kind of like what's next or life, and I think I heard him say something like that's what this album is for. He's like, he's trying to set it up and allow, basically thought, it's like thought trains, and you get to choose, where you want to go with it. But, like, it's supposed to get you thinking and, like, allow you to explore, your own thoughts when it comes to this crazy life that we have.
Yeah. 1,000%. And I think about that with the song that I just mentioned not too long ago, Before We Disappear, from this album. Some of the lyrics, how hard can it be to share your life with me? How hard can it be to rise with me each morning? I know that it feels like we'll live forever, but I fear that time will hide the years. And he was, I think
this song was the only song, sorry to cut you off. This song was the only song that had saved when I went to the album.
Really?
Just randomly, like, you just kind of come back and it's like, oh, this one's green, has a green check mark. And I listened to it. I was like, oh yeah, this song is like, it's really, really good.
I mean, goodness, just think of the opening lyrics. Time ain't nothing if it ain't fast. Taking everything that you ever had and giving nothing in return but a cold bed and the quiet earth. Yep. And, like, the point that Chris was at, like, obviously, as you said, like, I did not know the man. I never spoke to him, but, just consuming his music that he made throughout his life, and listening to him in interviews over the years, and hearing accounts of people that knew him, like, definitely somebody that was always mature and always introspective, and always his mind was lending to thinking about these things. But with this album, he's kind of sharing those thoughts in a way that he hadn't before. They're maybe a little bit more explicit, and the ideas have a little bit more room to breathe, because it's a solo album where a lot of it's simple instrumentation behind his voice, and the songs are kind of easy to follow, and they're telling stories here, and they're asking questions, which was something that I felt really blessed with blessed to have when I was 19, because I think as every 19-year-old or 20-year-old does, you're kind of, leaving childhood and entering adulthood. You have those same questions about like, where am I, like, how's everything going to turn out, whether it's mortality, whether it's relationships, whether it's moving, whether it's new environments. I mean, he kind of, in asking all of those questions on this record, it helps the listener answer them, in their own lives, which is one of the greatest gifts that you can get from art.
Time ain't nothing if it ain't fast, right?
Yeah, man.
That's awesome. And yeah, you take the point in our lives, I mean, we're both not 18 and 20 years old, making a huge decision to go somewhere else. This back then we're like, I mean, you just, the unknown and, making choices that are going to affect the rest of your life. And that song is so good.
Yeah.
It's one of the lyrics is, I'm not one to waste my time searching for some silver lining. Somewhere out there past the storm lies the shelter of your heart. And I really enjoy that. Like, somewhere out there past the storm lies the shelter of your heart. Everyone goes through storms, right? I mean,
yeah, dude. And it's funny because like those themes come up time and time again on this album. I mean, you go to a song like Dead Wishes, which is earlier on the record. Standing on the corner with my shirt tucked in, summer turns to autumn, winter turns to spring, and it all flies by like a speeding train. I mean, this is very much
Chris,
like
I gotta stop you right there. This is the most grunge Bible podcast we've had. This is the shit that got us into it.
Yeah, dude.
Right?
This
is
we
the
would
chills
listen
that,
to
like,
this and send
this is the
texts
shit
of
that we
lyrics
would
back
do.
and forth.
Yeah.
The same thing.
This is like real life grunge Bible.
Yeah.
This is no mail, and these are real emotions, dude.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this is, oh man.
Like this is an album from somebody that's like kind of at a crossroads, and no matter what crossroads you find yourself at in life, like there's so much that's relatable in this thing. And man, yeah, I remember we used to do that all the time. Like, somebody would send a lyric, and then like I'd get out of practice and see it, and I'd just be like, holy shit, and then I'd find another one and send it to you, and it just goes on and on.
And what's so cool about a lot of these albums is, okay, Chris was, how old was he? Probably 50.
I don't know if he was quite 50 yet. So he was born in 64. So yeah, he would have been 51.
Yeah. So like, I feel like, everyone says like, oh, you wouldn't understand this. You're too young. Well, we're a little bit older now. And the older we get, the more you understand. Like when you listen to these songs and like time passes and like, you have more experiences, you have more heartbreak, more success, and tragedy. And all of a sudden, like, these lyrics are, they take a step up in the severity. And I like coming back to stuff because you always will see it differently because of how much can change.
Yeah. And like, just to kind of expound on that, one of our favorites was Worried Moon, as we said earlier. And, I remember listening to that song in the chorus, worried moon, I'm afraid of what's to come. Worried moon, yeah, tell me what you know. Worried moon, you'll see further down the road. And like, I remember like, I wasn't necessarily afraid of what was to come, but like, I was taking a pretty big leap as you were in terms of like, for the second time I was going to, in 2 years, I was going to a place that I didn't know anybody to do something, that I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. Like, you're kind of taking a chance, like you're not knowing what's coming. And like, when you're in that moment, like you would give just about anything for somebody to give you some clarity and like, hey, like this is what's going to happen. But I remember like listening to that song and like, yeah, like to like in the analogy of this, like somebody like tell me what like how's it all going to turn out for me? But obviously as we all learn, like nobody can tell you, and like you just have to go out and do it. And that was a song that had a big impact on me. And the meanings change as time moves forward.
Worried moon shining bright, can I sleep here tonight right beside you?
Dude,
I got a long way to go.
That was one of our favorites, man. Oh God, yeah, like just thinking about all the little moments that you have with music like this. And it's funny because like it's not often that you can recall, more or less verbatim conversations that you had a decade ago about something, but just as we're doing right now, like, ping ponging these songs back and forth. Like we did that. Like I remember like I was in my dorm room, and like you were at home in PA, but even when you went to Finland, like we'd like chat and whatnot.
I was in a dorm room in Finland.
Yeah, man. Yeah, stuff is like, and like anytime, like just kind of in like the day-to-day cadence of the page, like we get a lot of messages where like, hey, like thanks for posting this, like this stuff like really made me who I am today. And like you get a lot of those, and at some point like you kind of forget like how true it is until like you remember how much of an impact it had on you.
Yeah. I 100% agree. It takes like you have to be in the right moment when you like kind of put it out there to understand, or like when the right moment to read it. And yeah, it's music is so powerful all the time. And I'm definitely like this album. I just think Chris did a really good job of letting the music, the lyrics, and like not necessarily, it's like not like one thing stood out. It's just like all so cohesive.
Yeah.
In each aspect, it's just like well put together, just a really good
it's car
for us all to get
project.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like he knew what he was gonna do. And
yeah.
Do you think like, knowing what we know now, and it's posthumous, but like it's just like the perfect end for the Cornell, like his career? Like feels like there's a lot of like metaphor, around it. I mean, it's such a weird thing that he passed away 2 years after this, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because like obviously like for him and for those who loved him, you would have wanted him to be around as long as he possibly could have. But if there's ever a place, and I guess even more so than like, is this like a good final entry? Like, I'm just glad that he lived long enough to make this project, and selfishly that we have it. But I have to imagine, I always wonder with artists, whether there's a level of catharsis when it comes to writing, and like it depends on the artist. Like some of them are like, yeah, like I feel healed after I do this, and some of them are like, no, like it actually like it brought back a lot of shit, and like I'm struggling now. And like you never know what the answers to those questions are, but that's the weird thing about art, is like regardless of how the interaction was and the process was for the artist, like through this record, like he has given understanding, he has given catharsis, he has given wisdom to so many people that didn't even know him and that didn't know what he was writing about, but it was applicable to your life. And that's what the great ones are always able to do. And I mean, he did that his whole career with every single project that he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm I was saying, like, even if in a different life, and if he just take his musical career, if like just like we're talking about the page, like if he just made this and this is the last thing that he ever made, it does seem like a nice bookend to a lot of music. I mean, this dude was in 4 bands, like Temple, Soundgarden, Audio Slave,
his own stuff,
and all of his solo stuff. I mean, a lot. He made a lot of music, and this, there's like there's a lot of gratitude. I mean, the lyrics are I guess are very, take them as you will. A lot of thinking involved, but like it just seems like he's in a very good space singing, and
like
I don't know.
He's in the pocket on this record. 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the final bit of wisdom or lesson that I learned from this album is I don't really have many regrets when it comes to music or anything like that, but I think the biggest one that I have, and I looked it up actually. I have a set list here, but he was still touring as a part of the Higher Truth tour in summer of 2016, so just about a year after the album came out. And I was home after my sophomore year of college, and Chris Cornell came to New England, and he played a show at the end, June 28th, 2016 in Worcester, Massachusetts. And by that point, like we had already created the page. Like we were firmly fans of Chris and of all of his projects, and we had spent time with this album, and I knew the show was coming. I remember looking at tickets on StubHub or whatever it was, and like seeing it was like a performing arts center. It was a theater that he was playing, and I remember like I saw like some balcony tickets. They were the cheapest ones in there, and they were like $65 a head. Like myself and one of my buddies, we were gonna go, and when you're 19, like $65, you're like, oh, that's a lot of money. Like I got to
10
drive
years
to
ago,
Worcester.
too.
It's like an hour. It's like an hour away or whatever. And I decided not to go. I was like, I don't feel like spending the money right now. Like I'm sure, in the future we'll be able to get this done. And obviously, I never had the opportunity again to see Chris, and that would have been my only chance. And it stinks, as it happens with a lot of us, like, afterwards you find out that like, hey, they were in my town, but you weren't a fan of them at the time, so how could you have that? But like this one really stings because like I knew Chris's music, I loved Chris's music, I looked at the damn tickets, like I might have even had him in my cart, but I just didn't do it. And I really regret that. I would have had the chance to see and hear a lot of the songs on this record. I would have heard his cover of Nothing Compares to You. He played some Soundgarden stuff. He played Fell on Black Days, Blow Up the Outside World. I would have heard some Temple stuff. He played Hunger Strike. He played Call Me a Dog. He covered Rusty Cage, Like a Stone, Seasons.
I mean, any of those songs that you're reading right now is worth the price of admission.
Yeah. I mean, Christ, he played, his set was 30 songs.
Oh,
like that's a ridiculous amount of music. And
like if you said
he
like
covered Bob Dylan, The Times They Are a Changin', for God's sake.
That's crazy. Like if you were to ask, top level patron Doug Endy, like how much would you pay to see Nothing Compares to You performed by
Chris? Like,
by Chris, you pay $100. I'd pay $100. I'd pay $100 right now.
I'd pay
to put me in a room. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
oh my gosh. Yeah. And what was his closer? Higher Truth.
Yeah, he closed with Higher Truth. Yeah.
I mean, Seasons, Like a Stone and Seasons would be so good to go.
Yeah. So I regret that a lot, and I do think about it maybe more than I should. And I've been thinking about it a lot today because we sat down to record this, but it did teach. And like, I'll tell you, like, since then, like I've been very good. Like if there's an artist that I want to see, more often than not, I find a way to get there, and pay the price to go and see him. And I never regret it.
Yeah. I find myself like, there's bands that are young and totally like gonna be around for a while, and I'm like nervous every time I can't get to a tour.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good, I mean, like I hate that. Like I'm just like, dude, you gotta go because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
Like, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that they said that same year in 2016, that was when Temple toured, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was November of 2016,
right
I believe. Yeah.
Right after the solo, and we were like.
I remember we wanted to try to get tickets for either Upper Darby, PA, or we couldn't get tickets for that. And I think the Seattle ones went on sale afterwards, and we couldn't get them. And they would have included a flight. Yeah. And the secondary market, they were like $1,000 a piece.
They were so expensive once you.
I mean, as a 19 and 20-year-old, 21-year-old kid, like I did not have the money to do that at the time.
Yeah, yeah. The tickets, it would have been so cool. And I don't know, I can't. How much were the Derby tickets? Like,
well, I mean, the face value wasn't egregious, but the secondary market, it was like several $100s a ticket.
Yeah, it stinks. I almost wish that we would have spent the money, right?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wish I would have spent the money to see Chris in Worcester, because that one, like, there was no barrier to it except, $60, man. And I'll tell you, like, the useless shit that I've spent $60 on since then.
Yeah. I just paid for an app that identifies plants for like $60 for the year.
Exactly.
Unknowingly, I signed up for the free trial, and boom, end of the week, didn't cancel, and I'm now I can tell you everything you need to know about that sunflower and how to fix it. It's sick.
Oh man.
But
yeah, this has been fun, kind of reflecting on that period, because it was, one, it was great music, but I think secondly, like, that period of both of our lives did a lot of heavy lifting, I think, in terms of solidifying who we are as people today, and also our friendship too. I mean, the musical connection that we had obviously persists to this day. I mean, the fact that we're doing this podcast and we have the page, it was a special time, and I knew it was a special time then. Like, we were very good about that. Like, we knew at the time.
We always talked about it.
Yeah, but I mean, even 10 years later,
we talked about how important this is. Like, this is important, guys. Listen, like, take it in.
Time has validated that in a big way, and I'm really grateful, for all of those experiences. It's super, super cool to look back on.
It's interesting actually. So during that time and when I went to Kentucky, I would remind everybody in my friend group, whether it be you and the other guys and other stuff, and be like, I would remind everybody, be like, yeah, we gotta soak this in. Like we're not gonna. And I didn't know what it felt to be
Right.
past those days, past college days. But everybody would tell me the best days of your life, this and that. But like,
Yeah.
the best days could be any day. And like literally when I'm in those moments, and I actually I feel like I haven't said it enough in the past 5 years. Like we need to slow down, like as much as possible. We need to soak this in. And I'm definitely going to be doing that this summer. There's a lot of moments that I want to soak in, and I don't want to go by too fast. And you may be listening to us and be like, this album was not that good, guys. Right? There's a lot of people that are like, what are they doing? But when you take a piece of music and you put in a very specific time in the artist's life, but then and also in your personal life, and you listen to it and things happen, like, yeah, this one has a lot of significant, and I don't know how to explain it, but the way that he, like just the composition and his song structure reminds me of that time. You know what I mean? It's like, it just takes you back with a simple, like just the way that, lean into life. Like there's something tangible about the way those songs were produced. So I guess thank you, Brendan O'Brien.
Yeah, thank you and happy birthday.
Brendan, thank you and happy birthday. Happy 65th birthday.
This was a very well endowed effort.
It's exactly right. Very endowed. Wow.
Oh, Jesus, man. Yeah, this is, but the thing is, like, we're waxing poetic about higher truth, but like everybody has that album. And if you're like us, you have more than one of those albums that like hit you when you were 18 or 19 or 20. And you still think about it, and you're kind of, in a way, you kind of still chasing to feel that way. It's like back then, like the song meant so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, that's the that's the last thing I'm gonna say. This is a safe haven of an album, something that you can put on and do your puzzle. Even read your book. Don't cook, do something, but put it on.
Go walk the dog.
Go walk the dog. Yeah, enjoy the sunlight, and I think Chris is there with us, right? He's there with us, and
big time.
We're
Miss
happy
that guy.
Yeah, more now than I have in a long time.
Yeah, you bet. Well, Ethan, thank you for spending this last hour and change. This was a lot of fun to kind of think back, and very much one of those episodes where I don't know how it felt like more of an obligation beforehand, but it's a treat and it's a pleasure to be able to talk about this stuff, and it's fun to get excited about this stuff and to pay respects and show gratitude for something that had an impact, because it certainly did. So
agree.
That's what the pod is for. That's what the page is for. So we love sharing our stories, and we love reading everybody else's stories. So if you've got any, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I hope everybody out there enjoyed this one, and I'm glad that we got a Chris Cornell episode, a real Chris Cornell episode in there.
This is good.
It felt necessary. It felt like it was a time, and I think it came out well. So I hope everybody enjoyed that. We got more episodes coming, so if it missed, then whatever.
You better believe it.
Try again next week, guys.
Next up, we'll do his album "Scream" with Timbaland.
It'll come up. Yeah,
man.
I know what they're saying. They want us to do a Kurt Cobain episode, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. It's coming, man.
The Nirvana.
The people always yearn for Nirvana. I think maybe two more things before we go. First and most importantly, we would like to thank our producer, Drew McFadden. Thanks, Drew. Love you, man. Appreciate everything that you do for us to allow us to have these conversations. Because that's the thing, man. Like, the Patreon money is all well and good, and we say that that's responsible. But like, if Drew wasn't doing what Drew does, like we could record all the hours of podcasts that we wanted, but we wouldn't be able to do anything with them because we wouldn't have our producer. So thank you, Drew. For all of your work and all of your friendship. Really appreciate you, man. And I think aside from that, just send people on their way with a song of the week each.
Yeah, for a second, I thought the other thing that you were going to say we need to dispense of was the culmination of the NHL and the NBA season is now
Oh
done.
man.
And we are officially moving to summer sports, and the
Baseball.
whole
We'll find
landscape
out how many ways the Red Sox can piss me off this summer.
We didn't even get to talk about the Devers trade.
Oh my goodness, man!
Yeah, I saw he had a dinger against them the other night.
Yeah, he did. He went 2 for 12 against the Sox, but he did hit a dinger, and the Giants took 2 out of 3. So, who's laughing now? I guess.
It is sad that I will make it quick. It is sad that actually really sad that Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles.
Yeah, it sucks.
In the game. All I can think about is imagine training your whole life for something and finally getting to the moment where you get to shine and have your shining moment as all the NCAA basketball, like your shining moment, literally the thing that, like, if you win or if you have, you have that game experience, like, even if they didn't win, like, it's almost like you're set for a life with certain, like, you just get to a point where it means that much.
You climb the mountain.
Like you said, when we were talking about, like, take these moments in, they're not going to last. Like, you have to just soak it in, and you have to, and he didn't get to do that. And that's really heartbreaking. But, like, now that we're into, like, we got a few tennis matches, Wimbledon, or, we got some, I guess the World Cup is going on, the World Club Cup,
the Club World Cup,
some random stuff. So it's kind of nice because now, those sunset walks don't seem so bad because they're not.
It doesn't come
sports.
at the expense of anything else. Yeah, exactly. Big
okay.
time.
So for my song of the week, so every night not every night. Well, yeah, every night for the past 6 months or something, I go to bed and I tell my smart device to set my alarm, and then I tell it to play sleep meditation music because the sleep app that I bought accidentally for the last year ran out, and I was too much of a coward to buy another month or another year, even though I did like it. I didn't think it was worth it. So I just tell Siri or Alexa, it is Alexa, to play some sleep meditation, and I don't remember if I looked it up or it somehow came up, but apparently there is a song called Weightless by Macaroni Union. Have you ever heard of this, Chris?
I have never heard of that.
Apparently it was specifically designed to reduce anxiety and depression. And it says that people listen to this particular song experience a 65% reduction in their anxiety. And
I got to give that thing a go tonight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. So it is like, it's like a meditation type of. You just got to listen to it. I think it's actually pretty long, so you'll have a good time with it. It's
excellent.
It's about 8 minutes long. It's very spectacular, and it's a decompression song. So
nice. Yeah, I think we could all we could all use some decompression.
Light the candle, turn off the lights, lay down in the dark, and put this song on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. I'll send it to you.
Excellent. Yeah, please do. My song is going to be Dead Wishes from Higher Truth. It's playing in my ears right now. So I think it's a good addition to the list, as we like to say. So, but really, I mean, the album as a whole, if you haven't listened to it in a while, I think it's time to reconnect and see where it takes you. Yeah,
absolutely. Chris, thank you so much. That was very enjoyable. Happy we did it, and everybody out there, thank you for listening. Thank you very, very dearly. So with that, we will say have a great week, have a great night, have a great day, and we'll be back next week with another episode. So
you better believe it. Thank you, everybody. Take care. We'll talk to you next week. Rock and roll. Stay heavy.